Welcome back, guys. In this video, I'm doing something a little different. I'm going to be reading a passage from one of the books of Marcus Aurelius' Meditations. I've done a video like this before, and I never thought more about turning into more of a series. This may become a standalone series. It may be something that I am able to incorporate and fit pretty nicely and seamlessly into the currently existing Succeeding with Stoicism series. So we'll see where this goes. But regardless, I want to read more and share with you not just more content, more parts of Marcus Aurelius' Meditations, but also my interpretation of his passages. I think this is an interesting part about the book. With a lot of works of art, different people have different interpretations of their meanings of the words or of the painting, for example. So these are going to be my interpretations. Because, and here's the interesting part, is that certain parts or really certain specific particular passages in the Meditations are more straightforward, I think, than others. Some are more vague or abstract, and that's what I find very fascinating. So without further ado, we're going to jump into my version of the Meditations. And by my version, I mean that I'm using the Modern Library version, or the Gregory Hayes version. At the very least, Gregory Hayes has an introduction with the book, but it may also be his entire version. But at the very least, it's the Modern Library version of the Meditations. You may have a different one. This is an ebook format on my computer. I'd like to get a more of a hard copy in the future, and I'm sure they're not that hard to come by. But this is my version, which I think they all vary, maybe slightly. So we'll jump into this. I'm going to start off right from the top, not from book 1, but book 2 is actually book 2, which, if I can find it here. So book 2 on the River Gran, among the Quadi or Quadi. I'm going to get some of these messed up here. But regardless, I'm starting with book 2 because book 1 is styled differently. Book 1 is unlike every other book in the Meditations. If you're someone who has read the Meditations before, then you're familiar with the work, and you're familiar with what I'm saying. So book 2 is where the passages that he was writing to himself, of course, start. So we're going to start there with passage number 1. I'm going to read it first, and then I'm going to give my interpretation of it. So book 2, passage 1 of Marcus Aurelius' Meditations. When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. They are like this because they can't tell good from evil. But I have seen the beauty of good and the ugliness of evil, and have recognized that the wrongdoer has a nature related to my own. Not of the same blood or birth, but the same mind, and possessing a share of the divine. And so none of them can hurt me. No one can implicate me in ugliness, nor can I feel angry at my relative or hate him. We were born to work together like feet, hands, or eyes, like the 2 rows of teeth, upper and lower. To obstruct each other is unnatural. To feel anger at someone, to turn your back on him, these are obstructions. So this is how Marcus begins book 2, chapter 2, section 2 of the Meditations. I think this is one of the more straightforward ones, so my interpretation, I think, will be quite similar to most other people's interpretations. So he's saying when you wake up in the morning, you want to tell yourself this motto or this affirmation, this phrase or saying, to prepare yourself for the kinds of people you're going to deal with today. I think this is, again, because the Meditations was written by Marcus to Marcus, just to himself. And from how I understand it, wasn't meant for other people to ever read the Meditations. This was more of his personal diary or journal, which is kind of strange that we all get to read it, of course. So this is what he's writing to himself, to tell himself, Marcus, when you wake up in the morning, we need to be prepared for the kind of people we're going to be dealing with. This, I believe, he was writing to himself to help him with anger. Maybe he knew in himself how prone he could be to fly off the handle very quickly to people he thought were stupid, to people who could anger him very quickly, who were doing dumb things, who were maybe disobeying his orders, the kind of people, and he writes about these kinds of people. I don't need to just pull these out of thin air. Meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, surly people, and you can put a lot more adjectives in there, of course. So this is an exercise in anger management. It's an exercise in creating and culminating peace in oneself. This is a part of what Stoicism is, I think. A bit broader lesson, if we pull back a bit more, at least from my understanding of Stoicism, what I've learned, is that it's very helpful to see the world not as you'd like it to be, but as it is, and to deal with it in that way. Now, to also try and change things for the better. But the first step for Stoics in Stoicism that you learn when you want to go out and change the world, let's say, is to first begin by dwelling in reality, not in fantasy. This is probably another utility of this, therefore, for Marcus. He's reminding himself to stay, dwelling in reality, to stay grounded, so that he doesn't fly off the handle. I think there's many different utilities for him. Anger management, culminating peace, staying grounded in reason and in logic and rationality, dwelling in reality with both of his feet firmly planted on the ground. There's several different reasons that he wrote this for him to help himself and for many people to help themselves with. So that's what it is. He's telling himself, Marcus, this is how they are. This is the real world. This is real life. These are just how they are, and chances are, you're probably never going to change them. So your only alternative is to deal with them, to accept it for what it is. Now that doesn't mean, this is my input here, I don't believe it means that you have to be passive and or tell yourself, well, these people are never going to change, so I shouldn't even bother trying to do anything about it at all. And it's true that they're probably not going to change, or at the very least that you're not going to be the one to change them, but it doesn't mean you need to be passive or weak, let people do as they please to you and all of this. So he goes on here. He's seen the beauty of good and the ugliness of evil. He's recognized that the wrongdoer has a nature related to my own, not of the same blood or birth, but the same mind, and possessing a share of the divine. So he's telling himself that these are humans at the end of the day, Marcus, regardless of how separated you feel from them or how much you're trying to separate yourself from them. Tell yourself things like, we're better than them, they're beneath me, they're still human. There's still some common ground there, some similarities that will forever link you to them. So to go on, and so none of them can hurt me because they are like me. No one can implicate me in ugliness, nor can I feel angry at my relative or hate him. So in a way, he's saying that we are all one race, the human race. We're all part of one huge family. We were born to work together like feet, hands, and eyes, like the two rows of teeth, upper and lower. As in that he believes that we were meant to work in harmony, to work together for progress, to build a better community, to build better selves, a better community, a better society, and better world. And so to obstruct each other is unnatural. To feel anger at someone, to turn your back on him, these are obstructions. So I want to make something clear with these, my thoughts and interpretations on the meditations. I don't agree with everything Marcus says. I can find this work to be, transformative and incredible, and very insightful and an intellectual masterpiece without taking every word as the gospel. I don't agree with him on everything. Sometimes, for example, and maybe my mind will change in the future, but sometimes I think that some of what he's saying, which again was to himself, is a little too passive, and I think can leave you walking away feeling a bit helpless to human nature and to other people. So you can take any of these too far, I suppose, but I think sometimes, maybe just occasionally, some of what he says breeds passivity, and I don't think that's a particularly good thing. We're trying to, and especially if you're someone subscribed to this channel, we're all trying to become better versions of ourselves, to become stronger versions of ourselves, people who respect themselves, who can be assertive, who are building their self-confidence and their self-esteem with every day. This is one way we can do that, to learn more about ourselves and the world around us, but I don't agree with everything Marcus always says. And despite saying that, I understand the message that he's trying to get across here. Again, he was trying to get it across to himself. This is something he was trying to teach himself or convince himself of. But I understand it. What he's basically saying, from how I understand it, my interpretation at least, is that we're all human. We're all basically the same. And this is a part of life. You need to deal with some borderline intolerable people, because this is the real world. This is what it means to dwell in, to live in the real world in reality, instead of what you would like the world to be, to live in some kind of fantasy land. And this is part of it. He's telling himself, Marcus, these people are annoying. They're going to irritate you. They're going to be disrespectful. They're going to throw wrenches in your plans. You know, they're going to present obstacles for you. This is a part of it, man. This is a part of it. What are your alternatives here? To get angry at everyone, to fly off the handle at everyone, at every time someone wrongs you in some way or slights you, even if it's just a perceived slight or wrongdoing. And I think that's the main reason why he does this. Calm down, Marcus. That's what he's telling himself. Calm down. These things aren't going to change. These people aren't going to change. We can only learn from them and change ourselves in the process to better adapt to them and tolerate them, so that we can keep moving on in our daily life and do what needs done. So I think that's what it is. It's an exercise in self-control and anger management. It's an exercise in creating and culminating peace within ourselves. It's an exercise in acceptance and surrendering the world, and it's surrendering to the world, to the nature of the world, and to the nature of its inhabitants. Just like putting your arms out and surrendering to life itself. It's an exercise in many things. There's a lot of lessons packed into one passage, which I find very interesting, and I hope you guys do too. So that's Book 2, Passage 1 of Marcus Aurelius' Meditations, from my version of it, which is the Modern Library and or / Gregory Hayes version. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Let me know if you want this to be a more consistent series on the channel, or maybe I'll figure out a way, maybe I'll just incorporate this into the currently existing, as I said, Succeeding with Stoicism series. Regardless, I hope you enjoyed. I hope you'll join me as we dive deeper into the meditations. There's a lot of wisdom packed into these pages of the book. And until next time, I will catch you guys later. Peace.